is Art Ramos. Our Church 180 What Up page is designed to be a one-stop shop with everything you need to connect with Church 180 over a weekend. You can access the page via our church180sd.com/whatup or just by opening the camera on your phone and holding it over the QR code that is in your lyric sheet that you should receive. There are links for signing up for things, Spotify songs, song links so you can listen to the music that we will be singing in the online service, and a connect card that you can fill out for a prayer request, as well as just connecting with each other. Did you know that we have a dedicated prayer team that takes prayer and your requests seriously? They would love to pray for whatever is going on in your life over the week or just in general. Just fill out the card and we want to pray for you. Okay, here's what you need to know today. We are meeting in the park again next week, and if you're comfortable gathering, that we would love to have you join us. Here's the deal though. As we continue to meet more and more frequently, we are looking to boost our setup team, hospitality team, and 180 Kids team. If you're interested in serving with Church 180 in any one of these areas, please let us know and join the team link on the What Up page. Also, did you know that we'll have 180 Kids Summer Camp coming up this summer? For 3 consecutive nights, starting Tuesday, July 13th, we will have our 180 Kids environment on steroid at the park from 6 to 7:30 p.m., concluding with ice cream for the new 180 Church ice cream truck, coming soon. Camp is for ages 4 years old through 6th grade, and there will be a $10 cost for the cost of the 180 Kids t-shirt. Register your kids now or sign up to serve and volunteer through our What Up page. We exist and inspire hope because of so many of you and your generosity. We believe and generosity is the very thing that enables Church 180 to live out the vision of seeing more and more people turn toward hope in Jesus. That being said, you can give online or set up a recurring financial gift at church180sd.com/give, or you can drop it off to our P.O. Box. Hope you enjoy the service and have a great day. God bless.
Hey, how's it going, Church 180? I am so excited to be with you this week, whether it be online or in person at Cesar Solis Park. Yeah, that's right. We started meeting last week, and we're meeting this week in the park, and we're meeting next week on June 27th in the park, where we take a couple weeks off, and then we're back in the park meeting more frequently every single week. I am so excited about this season right now. One, because we're meeting more frequently in person, and restrictions are being lifted and the whole thing. But 2, I'm really excited that we got to bring our 180 Kids ministry back. It is such a game changer to have our kids in their own environments learning about the hope that can be found in Jesus. I'm so excited about that. Hey, I also want to give this plug while we're doing this. While we're starting to meet more frequently, we're looking to boost our hospitality team, our setup team, and our 180 Kids team. So if you are interested in joining a team, you can go to our What Up page, church180sd.com/whatup, and you can click the link, join a team there, and we would love for you to join a team. That would be incredible and would help us in our quest to gather more frequently as a church, to lift up Jesus and to help more and more people to turn toward hope in Him. Hey, also, I want to mention this. And it was mentioned in our announcements already, but we have a 180 Kids Summer Camp, which is going to be kind of like a vacation Bible school if you're familiar with church settings and stuff. If you're not, that's fine. It's going to be like our 180 Kids ministry, like on steroids, souped up every single week or every single night. When we meet July 13th, 14th, and 15th right here in Cesar Solis Park. But here's what we're going to need you to do. We're going to need you to register your kids. If they're between the ages of 4 and 6th grade, we need you to register your kids and to pay $10 per kid. You can do that on our website and just click the drop down link, but $10 per kid, that's just going to cover the cost of their t-shirt to be worn at summer camp, so it's easier for us to keep track of them, and a cool t-shirt that they're going to get to have. But yeah, $10 for there. And if you're interested in volunteering for summer camp, all of the stuff to register for your kids, to also volunteer, is on our What Up page as well. We'd love for you to do that. So I'm excited to bring to you week 2 of Endless Summer starting now. I'm going to pray before we get going, and then we're just going to jump in. Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity that we have to gather online and in person. And Lord, whether it be online or whether it be in person, I pray that the words that you give me, Lord, the words that come out of my mouth, that they're your words and they're useful, God, for building up your church and to building up your people, Lord, and equipping us for the life and the work that you have for us. So it's in your name we pray, Jesus. Amen. So I was thinking about it this week and where we're going this week in Endless Summer. In life, okay, here's the best thing I can say. Life seems to be an endless series of moments that we feel unqualified for, right? Life seems to be an endless series, an endless series of moments that we feel unqualified for. I remember for me, there's been a lot of those moments, but probably the one that stands out to me the most was on July 18th of 2013 at 2:35 p.m. New Zealand time, whenever I grabbed the scissors to cut the umbilical cord for my oldest daughter, Ruthie, and hold her for my first time. And as a brand new father, this was a moment in a series of moments. This was the biggest moment in a series of moments that I felt unqualified for. I mean, like up to that point, I'd barely been able to keep a plant alive, and now I have to keep a kid alive. That's absolutely crazy. And then to make it all worse, we were in an earthquake-ridden, shaken hospital that didn't have enough room for all the babies that were being born. So we had to jump into a car 3 hours after Ruthie was born and out into traffic. Kelsey and I, just having given birth 3 hours ago, and now me and Kelsey and our newborn little baby Ruthie are in traffic. And that was another moment that I felt unqualified for. And welcome to Endless Summer. We're in a series called Endless Summer right now, and I'm saying life seems to be an endless series of moments that we feel unqualified for today. And our series, Endless Summer, is based on a 1960s surf film about a couple of guys that traveled around the planet chasing after endless waves and endless sunshine, hence the name Endless Summer. And what we've said is two things, okay? Summer's here. And I don't know whether you're a summer person. I'm a summer person. It's my favorite season. Actually, I don't know why. November is my favorite season in San Diego, but summer is my favorite season. And I'm after an endless summer. So summer's here. At least it will be tomorrow. But number two is this. We're following the endless journey of the Israelites journeying to their new home. So an ancient story found in the second book of the Bible, called the book of Exodus, is the story of the ancient nation of Israel journeying from slavery and captivity, which we talked about last week, and wandering for 80 years through the wilderness to this new home that God had provided for them. And that's what we're looking at, and we're calling it Endless Summer. And this week, I want to talk about an endless unqualification that just falls out of this story. See, here's what I know about me, and I'm assuming I know about you, is that you and I, we love the story of an underdog. See, we love to see someone who isn't qualified for something. We love to see somebody who doesn't seem to have much of a chance, who's unqualified for something, step up and own the moment, don't we? Step up and own the moment. I don't know if anyone caught the 43-year-old mom of 4 who made the Olympic trials finals. But she's a 43-year-old mom of 4 who made it to the finals for the trials for the Olympics in the sport of diving, to which she's the only one who's actually medaled in the last, 50 years as a United States woman in the sport of diving. And she she got a gold medal some 13, or 23-ish years ago. And here she is, 43 with 4 kids, and she was chasing this quest of being back in the Olympics. And I was really hoping that I would get to share in this message. And she made it, and she's in the Olympics, but she didn't make it. But there's just something about me wanting to share that she made it, and there's something about us that wants to see a 43-year-old mom of 4 make it, because we love the story of an underdog. We just do. And see, recently, as I was preparing for this message, I was intrigued by the story of a woman named Maya Lin. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but her parents immigrated to the United States from China in the late 1940s. And so she was born in 1959 in rural Athens, Ohio, or Athens, or however you pronounce it. We had a town next to us called Athens. And so she grew up a Chinese immigrant, from a Chinese immigrant family. And she grew up just with very few friends in rural Ohio. And she found herself loving to study and loving to learn and everything. And so she ended up at the Yale University. Okay? And so she ended up at Yale University studying architecture and design. And so, get this. This is crazy. In 1981, and some of y'all could probably remember this. I couldn't. I wasn't born yet. But in 1981, there was a public, national, anonymous competition to design the memorial for the Vietnam veterans. And so this was a public competition that was like a national competition that was going to be anonymous to design this. And so she's at Yale University studying architecture and design, and her professor at the time had decided, hey, it would be a great idea if I make all of my students, as part of their learning for this semester, as part of their education for this semester, to submit a design into the competition. So the professor assigned all of their students to submit a design into the national competition for who was going to get to build, or who's going to get to design and architect the Vietnam Veteran Memorial area. And so young Maya Lin submitted her design, and get this, this is crazy. Her professor gave her a B for her design, a B. But the panel of judges, once again, it was anonymous. The panel of judges that were looking at all the different designs were just blown away by Maya Lin's design. And they were like, we've got to build this one. This has got to be the one. So they chose Maya Lin's design. And whenever it was finally, revealed and uncovered, like who it was that had created this design and the whole thing that had come out, it started a national dispute. And it was so controversial. One, it was controversial because the design that she had submitted was not traditional, and it didn't keep with the traditional monuments of the day and the traditional monuments of the time and everything that had been built for war memorials up to that point. But it was also controversial because of her ethnicity, because she was an Asian American young woman, but also too because she had no credentials. She was the underdog. Like, no one was thinking like this 21-year-old Yale student was going to actually be the one to submit a design that architects from, renowned architects would be like, yeah, that's the one. We want to build this statue. We want to do this thing. And so the point that I'm trying to make is I was intrigued by this story because we love the story of someone who was unqualified for something, stepping up and owning the moment. We love it. It's the kind of stuff that makes novels that we read, the TV series that we binge, and movies that we watch. It's a good story for a good reason, because we love it. And I'm convinced for you and for me that life seems to be an endless series of moments that we feel unqualified for. And so today, our next stop in Endless Summer, week 2 of Endless Summer, leads us to one of those stories. So we're going to call it an endless unqualification. And so God, at this point, where we left off last week, God has called this man named Moses. And he says, I have heard the cry of my people. I have heard that they've been in endless misery, that they've been in slavery for 400 years. And now I'm choosing you, Moses, to lead my people out of this captivity, out of this slavery, and into the land that I have promised your ancestors and you. And I'm choosing you to lead this mission. And see, this is an epic scale. And his plan for Moses is of epic proportion. It is huge. This is the kind of story, this is the kind of mission that books and movies will give attention to. This is the kind of story that thousands of years later we're still talking about. This is the kind of story that will outlive you and me. Like long after you're gone and long after I'm gone, no one will be talking about us more than likely. But people will still be talking about the mission that was given to Moses in this moment. He chose Moses for this mission because he's going to lead a few, not 100, but a few million people out of captivity through plagues, through a sea, through the wilderness for 80 years. And he's laid out this plan to Moses, told him what he wants to do through him. And that is where we pick up in the story for today. So Exodus chapter 4, verse 10 says this, and God's laid out the plan to Moses. Verse 10, Moses then says back to the Lord, "Pardon your servant, Lord. Pardon your servant. Lord, I've never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you've spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue." Some people say Moses had a stutter. And so he says, I'm slow of speech and tongue. And so this is one of those ultimate, like Moses looking back to God, speaking back to God. I am not qualified for what you're calling me to do. I am not qualified for this mission that you've laid out for me. I can't do it. I can't even, like words don't even come out of my mouth well. I stutter. I'm not eloquent of speech. And see, and to be honest, I think this, many of us have faced many of these moments in life, right? If I can be real and honest with you for a second, like, sadly, many of us have walked away from moments where we were maybe felt called to step up. We've thought things like we're not educated enough for this moment. We're not good enough for this moment. We're not networked enough for this moment. We're not smart enough, good looking enough. We're not whatever for this moment. And we're going to go more on this later, but I love God's answer to Moses right here. Verse 11, the Lord said to him, who gave human beings their mouths? Who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. I love that. It's like the ultimate God card moment. We talk about the God card or the Trump card or whatever, you know, it's the ultimate, like God's like, who made your mouth? Shut it right now and just listen to me. I got this. It's good stuff. I love, there's this passage where the Apostle Paul in the Bible, he's attributed to writing much of the New Testament, the later portion of the Bible, starting many of the churches that you know, around the Mediterranean rim that spread and are part of our church today. But the Apostle Paul talks about wrestling with, he calls it this thorn in the flesh. And it's not a literal thorn. What he's talking about is a habit or something that is going on in his life that he just can't seem to kick. He can't seem to shake this thing that he feels tension between him and God because of this thing that he wants to stop doing or wants to stop having, but he still has anyway. And so Paul's wrestling in verse 9 of 1 Corinthians chapter 12, and then his letter to the Corinthians, it says this, but he, being Jesus, said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. My power is made perfect in weakness. Whenever we are at our weakest, whenever we stutter, whenever we aren't eloquent, whenever we don't have it all figured out, whenever we're not smart enough, whenever we don't have what it takes, whenever we're unqualified, God's power can be shown most profoundly and most prominently, honestly. And see, it says this, therefore I'll boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses so that Christ's power may rest on me. In other words, what Paul's trying to say, what Moses is getting to learn from the story, what you and I have to learn from the story is that God has a calling for us. And his power can be made perfect in our weakness. And so after all this with Moses, God's saying, hey, who gave you a mouth? I gave you a mouth. I'm going to give you words. So shut your mouth and open it then whenever I tell you to. Verse 13 is this, but Moses said, pardon your servant. Lord, please send somebody else. Please send somebody else. In other words, what Moses is saying is, this is too scary. This is too out of my comfort zone. I don't trust you enough. I don't, or just, this is what many of us probably say back to God whenever we experience maybe his calling or purpose or something for our lives. In other words, what he's saying is, I don't want to do this. God, this scares me. It's out of my comfort zone. Maybe I've got other priorities or other plans or other things going on in my life, and I just don't want to do this. See, I don't know if you've been here before. I mean, of course you have, like, if we're honest. Maybe it was God or a boss or another person, but someone requested something of you and you were like, yeah, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not. And see, here's the deal. When it comes to a boss or another person, someone else could probably do what you don't want to do or what you are unwilling to do. You may not end up having a job or a friend or something at the end of that, but somebody else could do what somebody else is asking you or calling you to do in that moment. And I'm going to be honest with you, when it comes to God, someone else could do it. I mean, God didn't need Moses. Like, he didn't. He could have used somebody else. He didn't need Moses. He doesn't need you. Like, I mean, that's the sobering reality of following Jesus. I think so many people, like, puff up their importance. Like, God needs me to do da-da-da-da. You know, he doesn't need you. He doesn't need me. You know? Like God's going to be fine if there's not a Tony Collins leading Church 180 in South San Diego. But the truth is this. The truth is this. No one else can fulfill God's plan for your life. See, God has a plan for your life, but that's his plan for your life and for your fulfillment and for your calling and for your mission and for your purpose in this world. And nobody else can fulfill that. I mean, he doesn't need you, but no one else can fulfill God's plan for your life. They can't. And instead of it being something needed, it's an opportunity that you have and I have to partner with God in our lives. It's a unique opportunity that you have. No one else can fulfill God's plan for your life. But Moses says in chapter 13, Lord, please send somebody else. And then verse 14 says this, then the Lord's anger burned against Moses. And he said, what about your brother Aaron, the Levite? I know he can speak well. Your brother can speak well, you know. And he's already on his way to meet you. And he will be glad to see you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. And I'll help both of you speak. And will teach you what to do. He will speak to the people for you. And it will be as if he were your mouth and as if you were God to him. But take the staff in your hand so you can perform the signs with it. See, God was ticked and he said, okay, I got a solution. Fine. I'm not going to use you to talk to people. I'm going to use your brother Aaron to talk to people. But Aaron's going to revere you and you're going to be a package duo and you're going to do the whole thing. And see, God doesn't always work that way. And most of the time when you say no, the reality is you'll just miss out. I mean, that's just the reality with God. I think whenever we say no to God's plan for our life, or when he's calling us to something or putting something on us in the path forward, and we say no, we're just going to miss out and live sort of a less than existence with our lives because we missed out on the plan that God had for us, or we missed out on the moment. Not to say, you can't veer back onto the path and get back into the plan and get into the moment, but you'll have missed out for that season or for that moment or for whatever, and that's usually what happens. But the thing I want to kind of just get pointed to and out of this story is what does this mean for you, and what does this mean for me, and what does this mean for us? And I think it's this, is when it comes to God, our feelings of inadequacy, our feelings of unqualification, our feelings of not good enough or whatever, oftentimes lead to fear, lead to feeling out of our comfort zone. And then that fear, that out of our comfort zone, then leads to what I would like to call spiritual paralysis, where we become spiritually immobile in the whole thing. And then we start to wonder why we don't feel God, or why we don't hear from God, or why we don't experience God, or why he doesn't feel that close to us. And in reality, it's just he's called us to do something and we got scared, or we didn't want to do it, or we just said, hey, send somebody else. And all of a sudden, then we felt spiritual paralysis, or literally a spiritual spinning of the tires, and we're stuck. And then we wonder, like, God, why aren't you close? Why don't I hear you? Why don't I feel you? Why don't I sense you? And he's saying, man, just keep in step. Do what I've called you to do. Go where I've called you to go. Be who I've called you to be. But you chose not to, and no wonder you don't feel me, experience me in the whole thing. And if life is an endless series of moments that we feel unqualified for, and as a result feel fearful about, and then don't follow through, if life is a series of moments that we feel unqualified for, what moment is that for you right now as we land? What moment is that for you? And I kind of split out into 3 separate moments to kind of close this, but maybe some of you tuning in, or maybe some of you with us at the park today, you have a fear. You feel unqualified, and it's led to a fear to follow Jesus, right? And so maybe you feel unqualified to make that decision because you're like, man, you don't know, like Tony, like Jesus, you know, and because you know, and Tony, you don't know what I've done. I'm unqualified for this. I've said too many things. I've done too many things. I've been too many places. I've looked at too many things. I've done I'm not qualified to follow Jesus. And maybe because you feel unqualified to follow Jesus, you're fearful to make that decision. And I would say this, following Jesus, it's not about what you've done. I mean, literally, this Apostle Paul that we've talked about probably killed people who follow Jesus. And it's not about what you've done, but the whole gospel, the whole message of Jesus is about what he's done for you. And what he's done for you actually is the very thing that qualifies you to make the decision to follow him, to lay aside your fear and to say, I'm throwing the fear to the curb and I'm following you, Jesus. And so I don't know if that's the moment for you, the fear to follow. But I want to just say, like, it's not about what you've done, but it's about what he's done. And you can overcome your fear to follow because of what he has done. But maybe some of y'all tuning in, you have a fear of taking the next step. And I get it. Like, following Jesus, I wrote it this way, following Jesus is an endless journey of nexts. He's always, like, till the day you die, he's going to take you on a journey that requires another step, and another step, and another step, until it's all over. And so maybe for you, it's the fear of taking the next step. And I would say this too, like, for many of us, it can look a little bit like, do you remember the Oregon Trail? The Oregon Trail, like, I remember on we had a Macintosh, back before they were called Macs. It was a Macintosh, and it's this big monitor, and I would go upstairs as like an elementary kid, and I'd play Oregon Trail, and it would be that game where you would, you'd be on the trail to Oregon or the West Coast or whatever, and you would get dysentery or whatever along the journey, and people would die, and you'd get, I don't know, like, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. It was a really cool video game back in the day, but I remember you'd always get to, like, these certain checkpoints. And maybe you'd be in Missouri, and you'd be, like, traveling by covered wagon in Missouri, and they'd be like, okay, here's what's going to happen. You have to give up X amount of food and X amount of stuff and abandon all this stuff, and you've got to go and you've got to ford this river to get through, to continue on to your journey through Missouri and Kansas and, and Colorado and the whole thing. And this is what you got to do to do that. And you can see how civilization over time, from migration from east to west coast, people were like, yeah, I'm not fording the river. I'm just going to set up shop here. Missouri is okay. I'm just gonna settle in Missouri. Sorry for if you like Missouri, but I'm just gonna settle here instead of expanding and going beyond on the Oregon Trail off to Oregon. And I feel like some of us can live our lives like that, and where we're like, nah, I was okay with taking steps up to this point, but like that next step's too hard. That next step's too fearful. That next step's not like, it's not part of my journey. It's not part of what I want to be about. It's not part of what I want to do. It makes me uncomfortable, and I just don't want to do it. Missouri's okay, and God's all along saying, have you seen Colorado? Have you seen Colorado? Like literally, have you seen the snow-capped mountains of Colorado? You're missing out. And I think God's saying that to some of us at Church 180 right now. Is, man, like, the next step, it's going to be hard. It's going to be fearful. I know you don't want to do it. But when you take that next step, man, Like, it might blow up something in your life and help you to see something the way that you've never seen it before, and help you fulfill God's plan for your life, helping you to live the best life, most purposeful life, most meaningful life, most full life that you could ever imagine. So what is that next step for me? And what's that next step for you? Last one is this: fear to follow, fear of taking the next step. And then the last one is just that fear to go all in. See, I think so many of us, specifically Western Christians, have a hard time going all in when it comes to faith, because we don't want to look like a Jesus freak, or we don't want to look like a weirdo or anything like that. And I'm not recommending that you look like a weirdo or anything at work or everything. But I love, I mentioned the 43-year-old mom of four going for the Olympic qualifications for diving at the beginning of this message. And I loved her story because it was on the Today Show recently, and she was telling her story, and they're like, well, why are you doing this at 43? And she's just like, I needed something to go all in for. And more specifically, I needed something with which my kids could see me, believe in it, and go all in for it. And make no mistakes, whenever Jesus came to this planet, whenever Jesus called people to himself, he didn't call them to some sort of half-life. He didn't call them to some sort of like meandering or wandering around him. He called people to go all in, to just push their chips out into the table and say, I am with you. I'm all in. I will give my life to this. And I want to say this on Father's Day. I started out with a story of my daughter Ruthie and feeling unqualified for that moment that she came into the world, and I felt unqualified for that time. Dads, if I can speak to you for a second, your kids, my kids, need to see me go all in for something. And I say this from the bottom of my heart. I mean this with every bit of who I am. I don't want them to see me go all in for anything apart from them seeing me to go all in for Jesus. And I pray that them seeing me go all in for Jesus inspires them, whether that be in a year or 2 years or 15 years, that it inspires them in return to go all in for Jesus, because there is nothing better to live your life for. And the reality is, he has gone all in for you. And so we're going to move into a time of communion. We're going to sing a song. And this is the time where we just want to invite you to grab a drink and to grab some food. And the food represents the body of Jesus that was broken. The drink represents the blood of Jesus that was spilled out on our behalf. It was literally Jesus hanging on a cross, dying, saying, I'm all in for you. I am all in for you. Like, what more can I do than have my body just absolutely broken, my blood just like draining out of me for a payment for your wrongs, and to help you to be right before God, and to help you to have a chance into what we call at Church 180 hope. Like the fact that hope won't be canceled because of what Jesus did on the cross. And so I'm going to pray for that time. And I'm going to pray for you to either follow Jesus, take your next step, or go all in and overcome your feelings of unqualification, of inadequacy, the whole thing, and know it's all about what Jesus did for you. So Jesus, thank you so much that you went all in for us. And I pray, Lord, that you going all in for us would give us the courage, would give us the motivation, would give us the inspiration, and give us the boldness to Lord, go all in for you, to take our next step and to follow you. It's in your name we pray, Jesus. Amen.
I search the world better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness and my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley, and there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Lord, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Lord, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves. You turn